This episode contains discussions of miscarriage and loss. Listener discretion is advised. If you are struggling or feeling overwhelmed, please consider reaching out to a professional. Back with episode 6 of the Pondering Parenthood podcast.
The Triple P.
We are your hosts, Mike and
Meghann Oquendo.
And I know that I've not ever once said this in any of our past episodes, but just huge shout out to the person who actually keeps this podcast going. My mom. No, I'm just kidding. Meghann, who just nags and nags and nags me to follow my dreams, because this was my idea, and yet somehow you're the one that
I've basically taken over.
It's your podcast.
It's my podcast now.
So
you'll actually hear me in this interview.
Yeah, that's right.
We are interviewing our neighbor, Kristin, and she lives right down the road from us, so we were actually able to have her in person with us, and I joined the interview.
Our first in-person podcast.
Our first in-person interview and first interview with me?
Oh, yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be a really, this is a really interesting one. And I don't want to spoil anything, but the journey is definitely fascinating. Kristin is also, her husband is in the military, so there's some interesting stuff there with deployment, and just all around really interesting, just a really interesting story.
A lot of ups and downs through her journey.
Yeah.
Last several years. And
the thing that I enjoy the most, both in this episode but also just in general, is Kristin is a very, like, no BS, very upfront, very transparent person. There's really nothing that she won't talk about.
Yeah.
And
she said anything was open for conversation, so that was really great.
Yeah, she's a really as adults, making friends can be really hard. But I think the two of them, both her and her husband, are some really good friend of ours that we've made as adults, which is nice. Anything else you want to add before we start?
Just before we start, we're all going to just pause, and you're going to click the follow or like or subscribe button on your phone or computer or listening device.
Yeah, we'll wait.
We'll wait.
All right, that's probably long enough, right?
Enjoy the show!
All right, super excited for this interview. And this one's going to be a little bit different because the person we're interviewing today is actually in our studio. And when I say studio, I mean our living room.
Basement.
And Meghann is here for the interview.
Yes, I'm going to be joining in on this interview.
All right, so
we are actually all in person. It's great.
So the person we're interviewing today, her name is Kristin. She lives on our road, and we met because we all had babies during COVID. Yeah. So, Kristin, how's it going?
It's going.
Are you excited?
I am. I'm a little nervous. This is all very new for me.
You're doing great.
You should be nervous. It's our intention to make you nervous. So, as I mentioned, Kristin lives on our road. We're like, 2 or 3 houses down from each other. And I believe you two met.
I met Kristin. I was on maternity leave, and my mom and I were taking a walk. Correct me if I'm wrong in any of these details. We were taking a walk one day, and I saw Kristin walking her son in the stroller, coming the other direction. And I remember being like, talking to my mom, like, I might say hi. Like, I might introduce myself. Like, this could be a friend. And so we started passing. I can't remember, actually, if you said something or if I said. I feel like I
don't know. I think we kind of awkwardly said hi and, like, chatted for a little bit. And then I was like, I'm going to do it. And I was like, can I have your number? And then I know I, like, ran home and I was like, Mom, I made a friend. And and that's how we met. And then we had Nicole down the street too. And we, had our little group chat. And I think it was, I wouldn't say awkward, but it was slow going in the beginning. And it was just kind of like talking here and there.
We were also all navigating like each other's comfort levels with COVID.
With
like
COVID
I would walk with Nicole with a mask on for months before.
Yep.
We were like, not sure how to deal with that.
Just to give credit where credit is due, actually, I met Kristin first. Because I'm just remembering.
Oh, yes, with the chickens.
That I was driving by and I stopped. And I was like, you have chickens. I want to get chickens. Talk to me about chickens.
And you know what's funny, too, is that, like, 2 days before that, I had just found out I was pregnant. And I was like, Will, I want to tell this stranger. And he was like, do not tell this stranger that you're pregnant.
It's so funny.
So it's actually, it's really nice because making friends as an adult is hard. And we live in Vermont where there's really not, there really isn't a ton of community because people live so far apart from each other. But we're really fortunate that we do kind of have space, but we are in a bit of a community. And it just so happened that there were a bunch of people having babies at the same time. So we were really fortunate in that regard.
There were 3 babies that were just like within months of each other.
Yeah. So being as rural as we were, we're very fortunate to have what we have on this street and that we all like each other as much as we do.
We all get along really well.
All right, so should we just jump right in?
Yeah.
All right, so Kristin, did you always want to be a mom? Were you like,
What was your journey into parenthood?
That question.
It was an interesting one. So no, Will and I did not want to be parents. We were going to be that DINK household. Double income, no kids. We dead set. We're not going to be parents. Which is partly why we moved out here to the middle of nowhere. We were like, we're not going to have kids. We don't need to be near anything. And then, interestingly enough, I was on vacation with my sisters, and I was like, hey, my period is really late. And they were like, okay, well, let's go get a pregnancy test. And so we did, and I took it, and it was really quickly positive. So I called Will, and I was like, hey, so I'm pregnant. And he was like, did you do this on purpose?
Oh, wow.
I was like, no, I did not. And he was like, okay, well, this wasn't the plan, but we'll figure it out. And I was like, okay. And so that was that. And we were like, okay, we'll figure it out. And then fast forward a couple weeks later, I woke up and I had gotten my period, and I really didn't know how to feel about it. I was kind of like, I don't really know how to feel about this. I was sad, but also kind of numb. And Will had come downstairs and he was like, hey, I'm running to the store. Do you need anything? And I was like, can you get me a bottle of wine? And he was like, what? And I was like, I got my period. And he was kind of like, okay. And he just left, and we didn't really talk about it. And it was kind of just, that was that. And we didn't talk about it. And it turns out I'd had a chemical pregnancy, which I didn't know you guys had until I listened to your podcast, actually.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I was going to ask, was it a chemical pregnancy?
It was. It was a chemical pregnancy. And so, yeah, Will and I, it was just, we tiptoed around it. And then we were talking one night after a couple drinks, and he was like, I think we should do this. I think we should have a baby. Okay. And then I burst into tears.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, okay, so we want this. So we went from not wanting to have kids to accidentally getting pregnant to having it ripped away from us and then being like, oh shit, we want this.
Wow.
So then that catapulted us into trying. And then we got pregnant. And
how far apart were the two?
So the chemical pregnancy, I think that was like December of 2018. And then we got pregnant again July of 2019.
Okay.
So I got pregnant July of 2019, and everything was going great. We did all the genetic testing. We found out it was a boy, picked out a name. Everything was going great. And then I went in for my 15-week ultrasound, and there was no heartbeat. And they let me know that I had lost the baby at 6 weeks. So I had had a missed miscarriage, which I had never heard of.
Oh, wow.
Until then.
Oh,
so
that sounds terrible.
I had gone in, I had confirmed the pregnancy at like 6 weeks, and then at like 6 weeks and 6 days I had lost the pregnancy.
Wow.
And so for 6 weeks until 15 weeks, I had thought I was pregnant, and I'd even done the genetic testing, but somehow between there, nobody on my...
Yeah, so you would have done the genetic testing in that window.
Yeah, and I had gone in for appointments, but nobody caught this.
Huh.
So that was devastating and infuriating and heartbreaking and so many emotions. So at that appointment, they gave me 2 options of I could have a DNC or they could give me, I'm sorry if this is too much information, but nothing's off the table for me. I'm an open book. So they gave me the option of a DNC or a suppository to go home and take. And I was like, I just want to get out of here. I don't even want to look at this doctor anymore. I was so mad. I just wanted to go home. So I took the option of the medication at home. And we did that. And, we thought it was done and over with, grieved, and moved on. So this was like September. And then fast forward a few weeks, and I was at orientation for a brand new job, and I was sitting there through a presentation, and I was having these horrendous cramps, and I was trying to power through it because I didn't want to be rude at this orientation and get up and leave. And I was like, I need to go to the bathroom. Something is not right. And I went to the bathroom, and I was just bleeding uncontrollably.
Wow.
Uncontrollably, and I had to get myself to the hospital. And it turns out that the embryo was still attached, even though I had gone through this process a few weeks ago of the suppository and what I thought was passing the baby. And so I ended up having to go have a DNC anyway, an emergency DNC, right then and there with like no medication or
So I imagine
anything.
you would have been bleeding prior, like when you did the medication.
So when I did the medication and the suppository,
was...
yeah, I bled a lot and passed a lot. And so we thought like that was it.
Cleared, yeah.
And so then I went in after I had all this cramping a few weeks later and had this like emergency ultrasound. And I remember laying there and sobbing and being like, this isn't the ultrasound that I should be having right now. I should be having this happy ultrasound and seeing my baby. And I am not. I'm seeing, this, my dead baby still inside of me, 20 weeks later.
Right.
After thinking I had already like passed it. And so I had to go have this emergency DNC, and it was just a very traumatic and emotional time. And so then after that, I was like, do I want to try again?
Sure, yeah.
So we had this conversation where we decided we would try one more time, and if it wasn't a positive experience, if it didn't take, then that would be it, and we'd go back to being a DINK household and not trying again. And so we grieved. I went through a really rough period, and then we started trying again, and I got pregnant with Oliver in March of 2020, right when the shutdown was starting. So I found out I was pregnant, and then like probably a week later we got sent home from work.
Wow.
And then I had him in November of 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a very interesting
That's a roller coaster
journey into parenthood. So like going from not wanting to have kids to chemical pregnancy to a missed miscarriage to...
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I knew you had a missed miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. You must have told me about the chemical
I'm
pregnancy at some point.
sure I have. And it's funny because I never knew what either of those things were. I mean, I knew what a miscarriage was.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what a chemical pregnancy was, and I had no idea what a missed miscarriage was.
Yeah.
And so...
just to clarify, so when you took the medication, there's no follow-up after that to make sure?
Nope.
It's just kind of assumed everything's gonna...
Yeah, I mean, they followed up in the sense of, like, you know, did you bleed? Did you pass? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I did. And, yeah,
That's a lot. What do you feel like your... And if this is too much, you don't have to...
No,
but,
God,
like
I
your
said...
grieving process through that, like, do you feel like you and Will were able to talk about it? What kind of things helped you through that?
I would have to say I talked probably more to, like, my girlfriends and people that had gone through things like that than I did Will. I think it was harder for Will because he couldn't relate to that in any way. So he grieved quietly and internally, and I grieved loudly, but not to him. Yeah. More to people who had experienced things like that.
Being a man, it's like, it's hard when you see this thing happening to the person you love.
Yeah.
And also, like, I mean, I know for me, like, I'm having this baby, but, like, I'm not physically connected to it. There's no bond yet. There's not, like, there's a disconnect here that, like, for a woman, there isn't. And so, I mean, I remember, like, Meghann, when you had your chemical pregnancy, like, it was sad.
Yeah.
But also I was like, it wasn't happening. It didn't feel like it was happening to me. It felt like it was happening to you. And it was more of like, I can't make you feel better.
Yeah.
I think Will said pretty much the exact same thing to me. Is he's like, I don't even really know how to help you because I don't really know how you're feeling because we're grieving different things.
Sure.
So it was a tough period for both of us, and it was tough in different ways. And I think he was having a harder time, like you said. He was hurting more seeing how I was hurting. And I don't think he was necessarily grieving the baby that we lost. I mean, I think he was upset, obviously, but he wasn't so attached in the way that I was.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I think he was struggling more with, like, he didn't really know how to help me because I was such a wreck of a human being for so long.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah. He was just like, you're like a ticking time bomb. I don't really know how to help you right now. But I also kind of felt empowered on some level because I was very vocal about it. And a lot of women came to me and they were like, you know, it feels like such a taboo subject, but it's nice to hear you talk about it because people don't talk about this. And I felt like I couldn't talk about this, but to hear you talk about it so openly, I feel like I can talk about this now. So I wasn't quiet about it. I didn't want to be quiet about it. And I'm not afraid to talk about it.
I think that's great. I think, because when I had the chemical pregnancy, it wasn't until I let a few people know. And then all of a sudden, like, all these women were like, oh, yeah, either that happened to me or, like, I had a miscarriage this week. Or, you know, there were so many women in my life that, like, I never would have known that about them.
Right.
But just, like, someone needs to make that first.
Right.
It's not something that's just going to come up. But in a way, I don't know. Like, it's great to be able to share those stories openly.
Yeah. And when we did get pregnant, I was like, I'm going to tell, like, my mom and my sisters. And he was like, well, you're not supposed to tell people in case you lose the baby. I'm like, but if I do lose the baby, these are the people that I want in my corner. I'm gonna, like, of course they're gonna know because I'm going to need them to pick me up off the floor.
Yeah.
We learned that
we had those
the
same
hard way
conversations.
Because the first time we told everybody.
Mike told everybody. Mike told everybody.
I told everybody.
Coworkers.
And then you know, you learn, like, it is important to tell people in the initial first few weeks because if things fall apart, you need to have people around you to be able to help.
Absolutely.
You.
I'm pretty sure you two were, like, the first few people to know that I was pregnant with Jack.
Yes, I think we were. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you came to girls' night and you weren't drinking wine.
Yeah.
That's right.
We were like,
I was like, none for me, thanks.
So it's interesting because so you mentioned how, you know, you didn't want to have kids and then you kind of fell into it and then it was taken away from you, but you had Oliver. But what's so funny about that, funny maybe not being the right word, is that Jack also was not exactly meant to be. Can you tell us about what happened there?
Yes. So, Jack. Oh, Jack. So
I love Jack.
I know. Jimbo.
I do too.
So we had Oliver, and Will was like, okay, one and done. And I kind of was like, okay, I could have another, but Will was like, no, we're one and done.
Well, you also enjoyed being pregnant, right?
I loved being pregnant.
Loved being pregnant.
I loved being pregnant.
Yeah.
I really did.
You've offered to be a surrogate.
I would. I mean,
Informally.
I will go knock on Nicole's door right now and let her know. Its offer still stands. And I knew I could have another one, but I was also happy with the one. You know, Oliver was perfect, and it was a traumatic experience getting to him, but Will knew he was done. So Will got a vasectomy in March of 2022, and then in May of 2022 I got a positive pregnancy test. So Jack squeaked himself in there after that vasectomy.
So for our listeners who don't know, and I can speak from experience, when you get a vasectomy, they tell you that you're supposed to continue to have protected sex for, I don't know, it's like 6 weeks or 8 weeks, something like that.
I can't remember. Until you go
90 days.
90 days,
Tested.
because then you're supposed to bring in a specimen.
Mm-hmm.
And then they let you know if the vasectomy took or not. And if it takes, then you're supposedly good to go. And if it doesn't take, then they've got to do stuff. And apparently...
We didn't listen. So as my doctor put it, you can still shoot hot for 90 days after the vasectomy. And so you need to use protection. But in our mind, Will was like, what are the odds? I wasn't really ovulating. I had been testing and I was not ovulating regularly, and like, what are the odds that we're gonna even like hit the ovulation date? Like, it's not gonna happen, whatever, it's fine. And it happened. So it was funny because it was right around my birthday. Oliver was really sick and I wasn't feeling well, and we tested for COVID and we all came back positive, and I was like, great. And then I was just upstairs, and I still had this like cheapo pregnancy test kicking around, and the night before I had this really vivid dream that I was pregnant, and I was like, how funny would it be? So I'm just gonna take one just for fun. It would just be, I'm not pregnant, but like it would just be fun. And I took it, and like immediately like 2 lines popped up, and I was like,
wild.
I was like, oh my God. And I called my best friend back home, and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And she was like, Kristin, you've got to go to the store. And I ran downstairs and I was like, I got to go to Kinney. And Will was like, what is wrong? And I was like, I think I'm pregnant. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I think I'm pregnant. And he was like, stop taking tests. They keep coming back positive. Because I had just taken a COVID test.
Well, this is like, if you don't test, then you don't know.
know.
You don't know.
You know, Schrodinger's pregnancy test.
Yeah, right.
And so I ran to Kinney, and I think I bought like 6 tests, and I came home, and like one after the other was like pregnant, 2 lines. And I came downstairs, and Will was like, I'm not talking to you. And so we didn't talk about it for like 3 days.
I remember that.
Yeah.
You were like, yeah, we haven't
talked about it. And so then I finally, after a couple days, I came downstairs and I was like, listen, bro, like, we got to talk about this. And so you got to let me know if you're in or out, because I'm having this baby. So if you want out, you got to let me know now. And he was like, obviously I'm in, but I just need a minute to like digest this together, because I just had surgery to make sure this wouldn't happen.
We weren't supposed to have any kids, and now somehow we're having 2.
And I had also, like, a couple months ago, just gotten rid of everything. We gave away all the baby clothes, all the gear.
Right.
We had gotten rid of it.
All the gear.
We got rid of it
God.
all. We gave it away for free to this woman that I used to work with. So we had just, you know.
Oh, that's awful.
Gotten rid of all of it. The crib, the swings, the sleep sacks.
Thankfully, you had neighbors who
could
help you out there.
So we got a lot of it
gear.
from you guys. So yeah, so we went from no kids to 1 and done to 2. And it's funny though, because if there's gonna be a post-vasectomy kid, Jack is like the poster child for it. He is just like chaos.
Fierce.
Fierce. He is.
Such a cutie.
He is so cute. That curly red hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's funny because I was like, you know what? I still somehow got my way because I knew I wanted a second, but Will didn't, and I was like, well, that's your choice, and I can't force you to have one. But I got my second.
If two kids were supposed to be on this planet, I mean, it's those
two.
two. Like,
That's a good point.
I don't know. Oliver's gonna kill me lately. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So we'll come back to Jack, but let's go back to Oliver. So so you had Oliver in November. Mm-hmm. And so we should also just say, so Will is in the military, and has been in the military.
Yep.
Since you've known him, right?
Yes.
And so you had Oliver in November, and then Will was deployed.
Yep. Yeah. So Oliver was born November, and then Will deployed February. Yep.
Right. So you got sort of the fourth trimester-ish together.
Yes.
And then and he was deployed for a year. Mm-hmm. So what was that like?
That was hard. It was really hard. I was very lucky that my mom basically moved in with me for that year that he was deployed. It's funny because leading up to it, when I was pregnant and we were gearing up for Will to leave, my mom and my sisters and my mother-in-law were kind of like, okay, well, we'll come up with this schedule and we'll come up in shifts and we won't let you be alone. And I was kind of offended. And I was like, do you think I'm incapable? Do you think I can't do this? Like, I don't need you guys here. And then I had this baby, and Will hadn't even left yet, and I was in my kitchen sobbing, and I called my mom, and I was like, I need you here now. And I was like, oh my God, I get it. I get it. And like, they had all had kids, and they knew what I was in for, and they were just trying to help, and I was offended and mad, and then I understood. And yeah, so it was hard. It was really difficult. And I also was really upset because when Will did leave, I'll never forget that morning that he left. I drove him to base, and I had Oliver in the back seat. And Will kind of just got out of the car and like kissed me goodbye and then walked away and didn't like say goodbye to Oliver or anything. And I remember being like, okay, what? Mm-hmm. And I was really upset, and I held on to that for a really long time, but I never said anything to him because I was like, okay, he's deploying, he's in a different headspace, he's got a lot going on, but it still really stuck with me. And I was like, does he regret this? Does he regret that we had this baby? Does he not care? And then he called me, and we were talking, a few months into the deployment, and he was like, I am so sorry about that morning. Like, it eats away at me, and I can't believe I did that. I just wasn't thinking, and I was all over the place, and it was a big relief for me. But I think he kind of did have this feeling of like, what did we do? Mm-hmm. And he wasn't really in this space of like fatherhood yet.
Sure.
So, but yeah, it was really hard doing that first year by myself.
It's interesting because I mean we've I've talked about it on this, but it's I think oftentimes when you're not the person who gave birth, it's hard to connect, especially in those first few months because you're just a potato.
Yep.
And
very angry, screaming potato sometimes.
Well, sometimes, yeah. you had a pretty.
What was Ollie like? Fourth trimester. When Will was there.
He was fine. He was a pretty chill baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't.
So I would imagine that, I can't imagine like disappearing. Well, it's not disappearing. Being deployed for a year and like not being able to be there, and specifically like for me, it would be like not being able to take care of you, Meghann, and to support you in your role and sort of being the predominant caretaker of the kid. But yeah, you're not connected to the kid at that point. And also you're now having to know that you're basically going to lose out on that first year.
Yeah.
I would imagine that, yeah, his head was probably in about 12,000 different places.
I know, and that's why I didn't say anything about it, but it really did bother me.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
I have to say, though, that first year with my mom raising that baby was a fantastic year.
That's great, because it could have totally gone in the opposite direction.
Oh my God, we had so much fun. It was such a fun year. And like, she just cooked and cleaned, and I just raised that baby. We had so much fun.
That's great.
It must have been, I mean, I don't know what your relationship is like with your mom. It sounds like you have a pretty decent relationship.
Oh yeah, she's like my bestie.
It must have been like, because I know like you got much closer with your mom, Meghann.
That period of time for both girls, it was like we bonded a lot.
Yeah, because it's a whole new your relationship is completely changing now. Like it's your mom is now watching you become a mom, and like so like there's all this stuff that she's holding on to and watching you do it, but I have to imagine that was a super special time for her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool.
What were some things that you did while Will was gone to kind of still incorporate him into Ollie's? Were there any, like, video, like, were you able to kind of connect in a way?
I mean, Will would send a video every day that we would watch, and I always had photos. I had photos of Will, like, right above Oliver's changing station. I mean, Oliver's first word was still dada. That's not true. His first word was cat, but he still said dada before mama, which made me mad.
Sure. Sure.
But I always had photos. Like, anytime we did tummy time, there were always photos of Will for tummy time. And we talked about him. There were photo albums, and Will sent a video every day.
That's awesome. That's good.
Yeah, so we did as much as we could. And you know, but he also had no concept.
Yeah. How long was he deployed for? February?
So he was deployed February to December, so not quite a year.
Okay.
But he did miss his
Still
first
very long.
birthday.
Missed his first birthday, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough.
Yeah, it was hard. And I was really worried about, like, the reintegration when he came home.
Yeah.
But it was so smooth. I mean, when he landed, Oliver, like, ran right up to him.
Wow.
No issues, and they were, like, thick as thieves right off the bat.
That's so
That's
cool.
great. That's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. But Oliver's always been so chill and so go with the flow and, like, okay, whatever. And, like, I'll never forget, I was so worried. I was not worried, but I was like, okay, I've got to break Oliver of his nap time bottle. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then Will literally came home from deployment and didn't know the routine and, like, went to put Oliver down for his nap and just didn't give him a bottle. And that was it. And then Oliver never had a bottle for nap time again. And I was like, okay. So now we don't do bottles for nap time anymore. And so that was just, like, how easy it was. And that's also just how chill Oliver is. He was like, okay. No
this
bottle.
Is what we're doing now.
That's just what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah, so
Aww.
it was very, very easy.
So, switching over now to Jack. So we talked about how we love Jack, but not necessarily was supposed to be here, but very happy he is. He was born sort of towards the tail end of the whole COVID thing. I mean, COVID was still happening, but it was towards the tail end of things. But he has had some health stuff.
Yes.
And some pretty, like, one of two or three with the health thing. So what have things with Jack been like since he's been around?
So it started out really scary, but it's been good recently. He actually has an appointment with hematology tomorrow.
Okay.
He had a blood draw this past weekend, which was all really good. Actually, excuse me. His blood draw was very positive. So this all started actually right after he was born. He landed himself in the hospital with RSV, which kind of kicked this all off. His blood oxygen level was really low, which was kind of the starting point for all of this. So usually your blood oxygen, your blood saturation should be at like 98, 99 when you get tested. And his was kind of at 88, 89, which was concerning. But he had RSV, so they were like, okay, that's probably the reasoning. And they treated him for RSV, and he was fine, and they sent him on his way. And then in September of 2023, he was having some trouble breathing, and he was having some retraction And we ended up back in the hospital. And again, they were taking his oxygen read. And he was at like 85, 84. And they rushed him into the ICU. And we ended up being in the hospital for about 2 weeks at that point because...
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So they couldn't figure out what the issue was because they could never get his oxygen level to be above like an 88 or an 89. And they were like, well, he should be at 100.
Yeah.
And they were doing all these tests and all this speculating, and they couldn't figure out what the issue was, and they had him on oxygen. And even with oxygen flowing into him at all times, he was still reading at like 88, 89. And the doctors were stumped.
That's wild.
Right?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
It didn't make any sense. And Will and I, who are not doctors, obviously, were like, okay, but something's not making sense. Like, look at the kid. He's fine. He's running around. He's breathing fine. He's eating. He's active. He's growing. He's
constantly falling.
Right? Like,
constantly.
like he's a totally normal kid.
Rough and tumble.
Yeah,
Right? But they were like,
built like a tank.
But their oxygen, they couldn't get off the oxygen. I'm like, okay, but there's a disconnect somewhere. We've got to look past the oxygen and look at something else. Like something there. And there was even another doctor on our side that was like, but look at the kid. Look at the kid. The kid is fine.
Make any sense. How can you, like, because if somebody has consistently 15% lower oxygen saturation, you would expect them to be sickly.
Exactly.
And he's never been sickly.
Right, exactly. And that was the thing. And even with the oxygen taped to his face and flowing in, he was still reading at 89%. Yeah. And they were trying to get reads on his fingers, on his wrists, on his toes, and they couldn't. And I was like, okay, I understand that the oxygen level is low, but like, he's fine. So like something else is wrong, and they wouldn't listen to us. And I was like about to lose my mind. And after 15 days in the hospital, I was like, we got to go home. I can't be here any longer. I can't afford it. I've got a job. My husband's got a job. We've got another kid.
My kid's future college fund is just been paid on 2 weeks of the hospital.
We can't be here anymore. We've got to find a common ground. So they ended up discharging us, but they sent us home with him on oxygen with the plan to come back at the end of October for a bronchoscopy, because they were like, okay, maybe he has a floppy airway. They thought maybe his airway was like underdeveloped and he was having trouble breathing. So we came back at the end of October and they put him under anesthesia and they did a bronchoscopy. And they came back and they were like, while he was under on oxygen, his oxygen level went to like 40%. He should have basically been dead. And I was like, what the are you saying to me right now? Is my kid dead? Like, what is happening?
Wow.
Jeez.
And they were like, no, but we don't know what the problem is. Anyway, fast forward. It turns out he has a blood disorder. So they ended up calling in hematology. So he, long story short, is the second person in the world to be diagnosed with this blood disorder. I'm going to butcher the name because it's named after the village in China where it was discovered. I think it's Suquin. It's like the Suquin variant.
Okay.
So his red blood cells are shaped differently. I have this written down. I told Will to talk stupid to me to explain it. So his red blood cells are the wrong shape. So his body is destroying them. Even though they're working fine, his body is destroying them. So his body is working overtime to make more. So because they're the wrong shape, they don't carry oxygen well, which is why
he's always showing as a low saturation level.
Right, which is what started this whole problem. So events like being sick is higher risk for him because his body is already working overtime.
Right.
To make extra blood. So when he gets things like RSV, it's higher risk for him already because he's already working overtime. So we usually end up in the hospital for things like that so when he was put under anesthesia, it put his body under so much stress that it tanked his blood cells that he needed a blood transfusion after that.
Wow.
Which was really traumatizing for all of us. And I actually had a really hard time with that. I mean, I was so thankful and grateful that we were able to get the transfusion and that he was okay and that, we had access to the blood bank and all of that. But I did struggle with the idea of like God, there is somebody else's blood running through my child's body right now. That was kind of hard for me to process. But then there were the conversations, because everything was so new, and he's only the second person in the world to be diagnosed with this, that we're kind of guinea pigs at this point, that they were like, okay, he might need transfusions every 6 weeks.
Right.
So then we were having those conversations of like, what's that going to look like? So it kind of started with like worst case scenario, and then we, so then we had to go get blood draws every 6 weeks, and then it turned into every 3 months, and now it's every 6 months. And so it's kind of leveled out now. Everything's okay at this point. We're just taking it day by day right now. But we don't know what's going to happen as he gets older. Is he going to be able to play sports, or is that going to be too high risk for him? Is he going to need a medical bracelet? Is he going to, we don't really know what it's going to look like. We're just...
And with him being one of, two people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, he's going to go into a doctor's office and be like, yeah, I've got this disease called this. And they're going to be like, yeah, sure, I make up diseases all the time.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, tell us.
Well, it's crazy because we go into, like, we are seen at UVM. Okay, so we go to the ER at UVM and we walk in and I'm like, don't take his oxygen. And they're like, well, we have to. I'm like, can you just read his chart? And they're like, well, what are you talking about? I'm like, please don't take his oxygen. You're going to get a crazy reading. This is the situation. And they look at me like I have 10 heads. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. Can you just read his chart? Like, he sees hematology upstairs. You have access to his medical records. This is his hospital. His doctors are here. And they look at me like I'm crazy. So I've had to talk to his doctors. I'm like, can you give me like a fast pass to like get through get through this? So it's I don't know, I feel like we should get a medical bracelet or something, because God forbid we're on vacation and something happens and we're, at a hospital.
Now you're trying to explain to them
right?
That, yeah.
And then we have to go through this whole process of like, they take his oxygen level and they're just being doctors and they're seeing these crazy numbers and they're like, we have to get this kid oxygen. He's not getting enough oxygen, and they're just doing what they think is right. And we're like, no, he doesn't need oxygen. And we're trying to explain it and they think we're crazy, and it's this whole thing. So I'm like, so we're trying to figure out the best way to work around that. But right now we're just the guinea pigs, because the only other person who has this blood disorder is like a woman in China. And it was only discovered in January of 23, which is the month he was born. So it's so new that the information that is available is minimal.
Right, I remember you saying, like, there's a research article in Chinese
Yeah.
that then had to be translated.
Yeah, and I think our doctors had to pay, like, several $1,000s to even get access to it.
It's wild.
Yeah.
and this was caused due to him having COVID, or
we have no idea. I don't know. And I said that to the doctor because I was like, when I was pregnant with him very early on, I had COVID. So could that be part of it? And they were like, we honestly have no idea.
Interesting. Yeah.
So we really just are taking it as it comes. But he did have a blood draw last Saturday. And it was really positive. His hemoglobin levels have actually increased, which we haven't seen since we started this process.
Without there being transfusions, right?
Right.
So he only had the one transfusion?
He's only had the one transfusion. But, it's one of those things where, like, a few months ago we thought he might need tubes. But it was a huge conversation of, like, if he does need tubes, if he has to go under for anesthesia, we're going to have a team on the side ready to do a blood transfusion, because if he goes under anesthesia, his blood cell count and his hemoglobin level is going to plummet, and he's going to need to have a transfusion. So we're going to need to make sure that there's blood ready to go. So it's not, Oliver had tubes and it was in and out, and he was at Walmart buying a bike 2 hours later. With Jack, it's going to be, probably a 1 or 2 night hospital stay and a transfusion and an ordeal.
Are you talking about tubes for the ears?
Yes. Yes. Yep. Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was so interesting. Knowing Jack, it's like, here's all this stuff going on, but Jack is a tank.
He's
you would never know there's anything.
Yeah, he's such a bruiser, and like he's got so much
spirit.
He's got a lot of chutzpah.
It's still, even with that explanation, it's still a little confusing. Like, if his blood cells are not able to carry oxygen as well, you'd think that would still create, like, effects to how he's interacting with the world. You know what I mean? Like,
he's an anomaly. I don't know.
Yeah.
That kid just blows my mind every day.
Yeah.
Wild.
Because he's definitely, I mean, he's got no issues at all.
There's no stopping that kid.
And you're working with Boston, right?
Yep. So they were the ones that
tabs.
officially made the diagnosis. So then we actually went and got established with them officially as patients, so that if there is like any major crisis in the future, we are patients with them and could be seen by them because they're more equipped
Right.
to handle it. We love the doctor that we're seeing at UVM. He's wonderful, but if anything major were to happen, I think Boston would be the place to be. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we are established as patients with them if need be, but we are very happy with UVM right now. Yeah, but I do remember when this was all happening, when we were in the hospital, at one point a doctor looked at me and said, "We don't know what's going on with Jack, but whatever it is, they're going to be writing papers about it." And I was like, I don't know how to take that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I don't think she was wrong, because...
Yeah, they're probably trying to say that as like to make you feel better. It's like, I don't know if this makes me feel any better. Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember also, though, at one point, like, after the bronchoscopy, because it took a lot longer than it was supposed to, Will ended up having to leave, and so I was alone in the hospital, and nobody could give me answers of, like, where he was, what was going on. And then finally they, like, wheeled him in, and he was, like, sprawled out and asleep, still under anesthesia, and nobody was giving me answers. And I looked at this woman and I was like, does my kid have cancer? And, like, that was the only thing that I could come up with, because nobody could tell me what was going on. And they were being, like, really evasive and weird, and they were like, we had to call hematology and bring them in. And I was like, what is happening? And that was the only thing that I could come up with. And I was like, does my kid have cancer? And I just, like, broke down, and she was like, no, he doesn't have cancer. But yeah, that was another roller coaster.
So stressful.
Yeah, but it turned out to be, of all the terrible things that it could have been, it has turned out to be very manageable and not as scary as it could have been. Yet. Who knows what could come of it as he gets older, and goes out in the world on his own. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll figure it out as it comes. That's kind of parenthood anyway, right?
Yeah, I guess it's one sort of bonus. It's like, oh yeah, parenthood isn't enough. Here's a bonus.
Right.
And also, like, you weren't gonna have any kids, so like here it is.
Just kick you right in the gut.
One thing I absolutely love about you, Kristin, is that through this journey of motherhood and being your friend and having you in my mom tribe, I feel like you're like the model for how to always keep self-care at the top of your list. And
I love self-care.
And you've taught me a lot to just how to take care of yourself and keep yourself as a priority, even when you're having to sacrifice a lot for your kids and all those early months and parenthood and all that. So I would just love a little perspective there, and what fills your bucket, and how has that come? It seems like it comes really naturally to you.
I don't know. I first have to say thank you to my husband, because he never says no to me when I want to do things.
That's great.
And he encourages it often. Although sometimes the amount of money I spend might make him a little crazy. But I think I just know that it makes me a better mom and partner, because I know that if I don't take time for myself, I become harder to handle. I'm not a nice person sometimes when I am feeling stressed or overwhelmed or anxious. So I know that I need to, as somebody who didn't want to have children, I didn't want to have children in the beginning because I am a selfish person. I like my time and I like my space and I like my freedom. And I want to be able to still have that and have my children. And I love my children dearly, but I also love myself and my freedom.
It's really great.
And I can admit that. And
I mean, both things are allowed to be true.
Right.
Yeah.
Two
Right,
things.
and I feel like you don't have the guilt. You're able to do a lot of that guilt free, which I struggle with. Like,
Right. That's the thing. I don't
feel
know.
like a lot of moms struggle with that mom guilt when you leave your kids.
People ask me that all the time. They're like, "Don't you feel guilty for leaving your kids?" And I'm like, I don't. And they're like, "How?" And I'm like, "I don't know why. Maybe that makes me a bad mom." But I don't.
I think it makes you a
really
better
am
mom.
like, I don't really have guilt when I leave my kids because I know they're taken care of. They're with their dad, and it doesn't mean that I don't love them, but I am still a person and I'm an individual human being and I still have needs. And Oliver will be like, "Well, why are you going to hang out with your friends?" I'm like, "Because I'm still a person who has friends and who wants to go hang out with them, and that's okay." And he's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And I don't feel guilty about that.
And it's a good model for your kids to see that too. That
absolutely.
Mom has her own life.
Right. And I say that to Oliver all the time. I'm like, I still have a life, man. Like, I'm still a person outside of this house and outside of you. And not to say that I don't miss them when I'm not with them. I do. But I also am not like, "Oh my God, I need to be home with them." I'm like, man, I could stay another night. That'd be great. But
I think it's important to remember that, like, we have kids, we love our kids, they're a part of our identity, but they're not all of it. Like,
exactly.
there's more to it. And it's like, yeah, I love my kids, and I also love when I go away for a couple days and I get to, like, not wake up to kids.
Right.
Like, that's really nice.
I still want to be an individual person. I want to be mom, but I also still want to be Kristin. I still want to just be that girl that goes out with her girlfriends and flies to Florida and sits in a restaurant and talks about probably mostly our children.
Right.
But, talks about other things and reminisces about when we were in high school and whatever the case may be. But I don't let myself feel guilt for that because I am still young and I am still my own person, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
And it makes me a better mom.
Yes. Right.
I get so burnt out and I get so like, the other day Will was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "I have heard mom 600 times in the last 45 minutes and I'm going to fly through the roof if I hear it one more time."
The other day, we were in the car the other day, and I said to my kids, I said, "I am no longer going to be known as Daddy for the rest of this car ride, and I'm not going to tell any of you my name."
The other day, I said to Oliver, "I don't want to hear Mom for 5 minutes." And he goes, "Okay, Kristin." And I was like, "Excuse me?"
Oh, no.
But I couldn't even be mad at him. Right. I was like, you know
and
what?
it's like, all right, I guess, yeah, that's the workaround, I suppose.
I'm like, damn, okay.
Yeah.
That's some sass.
I totally relate to that, though. Like, when you do... I mean, we send the kids to childcare through the summer, even though I'm a teacher. And, I mean, we have to pay for it anyway. But, like, just having a lot of that time to myself and get to go out to lunch with friends or, do errands by myself. Like, that alone is actually really nice.
Being able to just sit for a couple hours.
Yeah, like, I've been doing 45-minute workouts. Like, just getting little pieces of yourself back, and then you're so much more present when they're home. Mm-hmm. You're like, because when they get home, I feel like I'm, like, zoned in because I've had this bucket filling day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're not so like, "Oh my God, I need to get the laundry in. I need to do this. Right. I need to do that. I need to get all these things done." You can actually just like sit and focus on them and be there and want to be there.
Yeah.
And not like be somewhere else.
Yeah.
And disconnect. Great. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about how having kids changed your relationship with Will?
That's a hard question because, you want to say that everything is hunky-dory all the time, but, it obviously isn't always easy when you have kids. So, obviously, we have lost a lot of our, personal time. We don't get a lot of alone time together, and it's harder to find time to go out on date nights, the usual stuff. But I think the biggest change for us is we kind of really had to relearn each other a little bit. When we were pregnant, we talked a lot about the what with kids and what we wanted to instill with them, what we wanted to teach them, and what we wanted them to take away from us, and what we wanted to give to them. But we didn't ever really talk about the how we were going to do that.
Ooh, yeah.
So when we started to get to the point of having to discipline the kids, I think we came at it in a different way, and we weren't always seeing eye to eye on that piece of things. And so we had to kind of relearn how to be a team and be like one cohesive unit. And we definitely fought more. We never really fought when we had kids. There was some resentment, and there was definitely a lot of tough times that we had to work through. So it definitely isn't all easy, and it definitely changed it. I wouldn't say for the worse. We've had some hard times, and we have worked through a lot of stuff. And it's made us stronger in the end. But it's definitely not easy when you have kids.
Yeah. We fought quite a bit in the beginning. And about dumb stuff that we would eventually look at each other and just be like, what are we even fighting about? And I do remember, like, we kind of had to have some conversations, like, if someone suggests something, let's just try it. Not, I feel like it was a natural response to kind of view the person as other and well, I'm going to be the one who has it right, and then you're just fighting for no,
Yep.
And so changing some of that in the very beginning, those were the newborn days. That was helpful. But
I've also learned that in our relationship, I tend to be the one who's kind of more like, oh, whatever, let's just see what happens, and let's just go with the flow, and, oh, they'll be fine, let them jump on the couch, let them, run down the road a little bit ahead of us. And Will is more of the, I think the military has instilled in him to always expect and plan for the worst. And so he's always kind of just on edge, and that really irks me a lot of the time. And I'm like, God, can you just live in the moment a little bit? And he's like, God, can you just not have your head in the clouds all the time? And so we kind of butt heads like that. And so we've really had to work on understanding each other better. And I've had to really understand that he's not coming from a place of trying to, be a fun sucker. He's coming from a place of, he's been in the military since he was 18, and he's seen things and done things that I'm never going to be able to relate to. And so I've had to kind of wrap my head around that he's, it's just something that he has ingrained in him. And so he's also trying to understand that I'm somebody who's more go with the flow and let's just have fun, and he's trying to loosen up a little bit. So we're trying to work together, and we're trying to figure it out together, but we've definitely had to compromise a lot more, which we never really had to do when we didn't have kids. We could just go to the bar and hang out and travel, and
there's
chill.
no added stressors,
right? And we never fought, and now we fight, and I'm like, I don't like when we fight, but we don't ever fight in front of the kids, which is a big thing for us. We make sure to never let that happen in front of the kids. We don't want them, And it's never like, screaming matches. It's just like bickering, disagreements. But yeah, I think that's been the hardest thing for me is the arguments, because we never did that in the 8 years we were together before we had kids.
Yeah, and you have no idea, like, there's no way to really prepare for that. You don't know how it's all going to change, and you've never been a parent before, and your partner's never been a parent before, so, like, you don't know what your styles are going to be like.
Yep.
Yeah, in our relationship, I feel like Mike is more of the harder disciplinarian, and I'm way more like, I'm the negotiator.
Yep, me too.
And that doesn't go well together sometimes.
Yep.
But we have gotten better with sticking to, like, when we talk to the kids, saying, like, if someone already said something to you, like, even if I don't agree with it, and I won't tell them I won't agree with it, but I'm like, well, we're on the same team, like, Daddy already said that, so that's what my response is. And that's been helpful. That wasn't something that earlier in the process we were doing. And it's hard because in the moment I'm like, I don't agree with what was said, but I need to stick with it.
Yep.
And then we'll have the conversation, like, afterwards.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, the fighting in front of the kids too, that's something we try to be very aware of as well. And sometimes it's harder. And our house is so small that sometimes it's harder to, like, make sure that happens, but it's not good for them to... No, it's not. But what can you do? It happens. I mean, they're gonna see it, but it's not, it's not anything brutal. I mean, they're gonna see disagreements, they're gonna see arguments, but we try our best to keep it away from them as much as we can. But we do the same thing. Like, we'll have those moments where I'm like, Daddy already said no, and then later I'm like, well, I don't really think that was the way to approach that. And, and we can have those conversations now, and he'll be like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but this was my thought process in the moment. And sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense now that you explain it to me. So we just have to communicate a lot more than we had to before we had kids. So it's just been a lot of growing together again. Your whole relationship, like, evolves with it.
And for a long time, I feel like we were in, like, a very roommate-y phase.
Yep. Totally.
And it was like we just were ships in the night, especially when we had Jack, when we had a second kid. It was always Will and Oliver and me and Jack. We were like two separate families because, Jack was breastfeeding and he was so attached to me, and they would always go out and do things, and I was always kind of the one stuck back with Jack, and it was just really hard to do things as a family of four for a really long time, and that was really hard to navigate that, and that caused a lot of friction.
Yeah.
So it's been hard. It's definitely changed our relationship. We've gotten stronger over the years. We definitely have gone through some rough patches, for sure. I think that's pretty normal. Yeah. I would say. I think if you don't go through rough patches when you have children, that's
how you grow.
Right. But we come through it stronger in the end, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, we like to end these interviews with one piece of advice you could give to other parents out there. So what's one thing that you might suggest, or one piece of advice you might give to the parents out there?
You know what? One thing, and actually I'm going to steal this from my mom, and she gave this piece of advice to me when she was with me that first year with Oliver. I spent that first year with my head in my phone, like, Googling everything. Like, is this the right milestone? Should he be doing this? And she was like, put your phone down and just be present and look at your kid and pay attention to your kid and read his cues. Stop comparing. Stop. Like, you'll find any answer you want on the internet, or you can just stop comparing your kid to other kids or the internet or what you're reading, and just be present and read your kid's cues and trust your gut. And like, that's the best piece of advice I think my mom ever gave me, was just, and like, that still sticks with me. He's almost 5 and Jack's 2.5. And like, that still sticks with me now, is to just read your kid's cues and listen to your kid and focus on them, and they'll tell you what they need and where they're at. And that's the best piece of advice that was ever given to me, and I like to pass that piece of advice down.
It's good advice.
Especially for our generation. That's
Yes, get your
really
head out of your
important.
phone. It's like, with the internet, you can Google anything and you can find whatever answer you're looking for, whether it's positive or negative.
It's true.
You'll
So
find,
true.
and you'll drive yourself nuts.
The Dr. Google thing is...
It's
bad.
so
It's
bad.
bad news.
Just pay attention to your kid and trust yourself.
For me, the phone in general, too, just being aware of how much I'm on it when I'm with them. Because it's so hard, right? You're like, it's such a habit now to like reach for your phone. And so I'm trying to be very aware of that lately, and like put my phone away for pockets of time so that I can be fully invested. But it's hard. And then you'll see them like have a pretend phone in their hand, and then they're like talking on it, or they're texting. Well, I haven't seen texting yet. But they're talking on it. They're creating conversations that they've heard
But
you
Snuz has said, like, oh, excuse me, I have to go do a work call. And, like, go out.
She'll put her finger up, like, just wait 1 second.
And now Mouse is, like, carrying around that little remote, and she's, like, calling it her phone. And
Yep.
She's not even 2 yet.
Yeah.
Oliver the other day was playing, and I heard him in the playroom being like, I have a to-go order for Kristin P. And I was like, oh, maybe we need to stop going to Starbucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, get off your phone and stop comparing your kids to what you see on the internet and to other people's kids.
It's good advice.
That's good advice.
Yes.
Well, this has been super fun. I'm glad we were able to do a live interview.
Yeah, that was fun.
That's super cool.
Different energy. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. And really appreciate having you on. We'll have to it'd be great to have Will come on, and then have you both on at some point.
Do you think Will would come on?
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet.
Yeah. That'd be fun. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. That was fun. I was nervous, but that was a lot of fun.
It was.
I would love to do that again.
Yeah, we did it.
I love it.
All right, back to... I really like interviewing people, but I enjoy the chat with you after the interview a lot.
Oh, really?
So this might be my favorite part of the episodes.
That's so sweet.
The interviews are fun, obviously, because it's nice to talk to people about their journeys and their experiences. But
You like me. That's good.
I think you're okay.
It's positive.
Yeah, I'll give it another couple years and we'll see where we're at.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so let's get into this one. So my first thought with all of this, I have many thoughts about Kristin's journey, but I think what stuck out to me the most is they were like very happy and content to be, I can't remember what the acronym she used.
DINK.
DINK.
A DINK household, double income, no kids.
Yeah, and like clearly thriving in that environment, and to go from that to then 2 kids within the span of like 3 years is
Wild.
It's wild. Yeah. It's like it's like obviously it's obviously a 180. But also like to hear how, cuz like things didn't necessarily work out the first time so easily.
First 2 times.
Yeah, and then but then to like hear how like supportive Will was and like how they got through that, I thought was...
Yeah, I didn't know that part about their story. I had always kind of thought in my brain that they moved here with the intention of having kids because they have a really nice house.
Yeah.
It seems like a very family-oriented place. And
they're also like... I mean, just because somebody is necessary, like, would be a good parent doesn't mean that they need to have kids, but they're both excellent parents.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So that was a little thing that was kind of new to me. I knew that they didn't want kids in the beginning, but I didn't know the timeline.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Well, and then to, like, so you end up with the first one after everything they went through, and then to go through the process of making so that we don't have any more kids, and then to have the second one is pretty wild. And then obviously everything that that the second kiddo went through with all the health stuff. Then it's like to go from we're not gonna have kids to what they've ended up with. It's a
lot.
It's a lot, but they handle it with so
much grace.
They're just like so chill.
Yeah,
so chill.
It's just, and she talks toward the end like it's just take it day by day, and that's all you can really do. And yeah, I think they've handled a lot of those trials very well.
Yeah. And then, did you have anything?
It was just, it's so scary that his whole health story, the fact that he's one of 2 people is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the amount of anxiety that you must have, right? Because there's just so much unknown.
Yeah.
But then, she kept saying this in the interview, but, like, you look at the kid is thriving. Like,
yeah,
there's
he's
no indication.
Rough and tumble kiddo.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting, like, to see how that all plays out, and a lot of it, they're not exactly sure how it's going to impact him as he gets older. And
yeah. The other thing is just, obviously there's not a whole lot to be done about it, but Will's deployment, like, so soon after the first kiddo was born, and I have to go through that for a whole year.
I cannot even imagine.
For both of them, it's just, like, it just feels like, because, like, for Kristin, she's now, like, having to, like, figure out this whole parenting thing alone.
Yeah.
But then also for Will to be away from your kiddo for that first year.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she had her mom, so, like, there still was a pretty consistent other person. But it's
not
so
your
different.
person.
Yeah.
It's nice, certainly nice to have the help and 2 people taking, we had 3 of us taking care of a kid, and it was hard. So, when you talk about parenthood, you talk about it's all centered around the kid, but parenthood, there's the kid, but there's the parent. And, like, part of the joy, at least for me, I would say part of the joy of being a parent is seeing the person you've chosen to have kids with fall into that role and grow and develop, and see them make mistakes, and then you work with each other to figure it out, but then also see them thrive where maybe you aren't thriving, and to learn from them. And
and that first year is so incredibly rocky, like, because everything is so new, like, you're really just learning together.
Yeah. One, at the end of the day, I think, like, for me at least, in that first year, which was so incredibly difficult, at least I had you.
Right.
And at least you had me.
Right.
Right? Like, at least we had each other. And so, yeah, it's just, but then I would imagine if if I were in Will's shoes, I would be feeling such loss about not being there with my kid, but also, like, I live to serve, and, like,
right.
The idea that I'm not there to support you, I'm sure that, was something Will had to contend with. And
yeah, just so challenging.
Yeah, really tough stuff. Did you have anything that stuck out to you?
The only other thing that was kind of a wild story was her miscarriage. She had done genetic testing within that bracket. Like, she'd had doctor's appointments, right? But, like, because her body wasn't necessarily showing any symptoms, like, it's just crazy to me to think that, and this happens way more often than you'd think.
Yeah.
Like, miscarriages can happen and nobody catches it. Like, in the medical field. And to also what she described when she finally took the medication to have everything pass, and that didn't even, like, wasn't even really followed up on. They don't, like, do an ultrasound or, like...
Yeah.
It just seems like a...
Yeah, it just underscores
I'm not a medical professional, but, like, it seems like something that could easily be monitored a little bit better.
Yeah.
To avoid what she had to go through. Because that's traumatic. To go, she chose to do the suppository at home to avoid the DNC, but because of all of that, still had to do the DNC. And it's like, that all could have been helped if, I felt like if they had been able to monitor along the way,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it just underscores it underscores sort of like the lacking in, like, women's health in general. And it's tough, right? Because, like, especially, like, in a state like ours, there are so few resources. The resources that we do have are stretched so incredibly thin.
Yeah.
Not that those are excuses, but it's just, there's not a whole lot of, I mean, even, like, the postpartum visits, like, you go back after 6 weeks, you're there for 3 minutes, and then that's it. It's like, good for you.
Yeah.
There's definitely some, again, I just talked about it there's the kid, but there's also the parent, and it's like, all of the care is around basically, like,
the baby.
Getting the baby out.
Yeah.
And it's like, but what about...
There's no real care of the mother.
Yeah, there's
once the baby is out, the care is not there.
Well, and if you end up in a case where you have a miscarriage or some kind of need anything,
it's very reactive care.
Right, and then it's like, well, there is no more baby, so the care then kind of disappears, and it's like, no, but there's still this person who, like, is going through this medical thing.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, and thank you, Kristin, for coming on and being so vulnerable and telling your story. We hope that you are liking, subscribing, following. Please email us at ponderingparenthoodpodcast@gmail.com. And subscribe, follow us on Instagram. Meghann works really hard to create really creepy AI-generated reels of random AI-generated people who we don't know.
Listen, I'm not willing to put videos of us talking, so I'm gonna create AI-generated
I'm not
videos.
hating. I'm just saying. I'm just calling out what it is.
I think they're pretty high quality.
They're really high quality, creepy AI-generated reels, so it's good. But anyways, we really appreciate y'all listening, and if everybody who listens, all three of you, if you tell one other person to listen to an episode, we will double our listening base. Think about that for a second. You tell one person to listen, and we double our listening base. We can go from 3 listeners to 6 listeners.
No,
overnight.
We gotta share a story though. We were at a wedding this weekend, and we were just chatting with one of the friends of a few friends of the bride.
Yeah.
And just talking about the podcast because they were sharing some of their own personal journey. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, I've heard of you."
Are you
You're
pondering?
the people?
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, I feel like I'm meeting a famous person.
We felt like celebrities for a second, for sure.
Which is so funny. I had no idea that my friend had even mentioned us.
But the reason that we felt like celebrities is because one of our listeners told her friends about the podcast. So, again, all 3 of our listeners, if you go and tell one friend, you can double our listening base overnight. So please do that.
Heck yeah.
I think we did it.
We did it.
All right. Thank you. Until next time.
Love you.